Perry Central. You're tuned into the Commodore Cast, where we spotlight student achievements, classroom creativity, and the events that bring our community together. So anchor down and stay around for the latest from Perry Central.
On this episode of the Commodore Cast, I sit down with Mike Jarboe, who is a teacher down in the CTE building for engineering, and he's also in charge of the EDD program, which is Engineering Development and Design, and he's going to tell us some of the cool things that his students are working on. So what did you do before you were a teacher?
So this is my fourth year here teaching at Perry Central. Before that, I was a land surveyor. I worked at Cash Wagner and Associates. Came here to start a surveying program as well. So far, that's only been every other year. So I don't currently have a surveying class, but we're hoping to have one again next year.
So did you have any background with 3D printing and the things that you seem to be doing a day in and day out here now?
3D printing, no. Engineering, so land surveyors work with civil engineers, so I have a little bit of engineering background. But 3D printing, they asked me to teach that. I knew nothing about it. I took a 2-week training this summer before I started teaching here, and then that's kind of where I learned the basics. And then Rainy House has been a big help. And other than that, it's just been a lot of YouTube and Google.
So this has blossomed into this partnership. I mean, you still teach engineering as a high school course, but there's a lot of hands-on work that goes on during the day. Mm-hmm. And then some of it is actually turned into like a business venture, you could say.
Yep.
Could you explain a little bit about your work with Jarboe Engines and just how it evolved to what it is today?
Yep. So before I get into the Jarboe engine stuff, our construction classes are actually building the house for Habitat for Humanity. Our engineering classes designed the floor plans for those last year, and we're in the process of designing the floor plans for next year's house as well. So we're working with the construction class as well, coming up with the plans for the new house, and anything they have questions about, they kind of come to us as well while they're building the house. But yeah, Jarboe Engines, Jason Recker is the HR person at Jarboe Engines. Jody had brought him in to kind of tour our facility and show them all the different things that we're doing here. And he saw the 3D printing capabilities that we had. They do some 3D printing at their business as well, and they knew the workplace challenges that we're trying to bring in, so they wanted to partner with us and have us start doing some of their projects. So he got us in touch with Charles Gentry, who's in charge of their Jarboe Production Services entity of their company.
Okay.
And they make a lot of tool holders they're all about lean manufacturing. So they only give them the tools that are required to do the job, not just a toolbox full of tools. And they're on these, they call it blue tube assemblies, and they're all lined up in the order that they need to use them. They 3D print all of their own tool holders. So their first project for us was they just sent us the files of those tool holders. They asked us what we could print them for what price. So we put them in our software, figured out how much material is going to cost, and we came up with our own formula on how much profit we should make for each part and sent them a quote back. Their first project, they ordered 120 parts. We printed all those to them. Currently, we have Rainy House delivering those to them when they're finished. And then they came back a second time with their disassembly tool holders. So they're more heavy-duty tools. There's exposed to a lot more grease and oil and stuff that breaks down the material that they're used to printing with, which is PLA. We have other materials that we can print with. So they gave us about 15 or 20 tools, and our kids created a design for each one of those, and then we brought Jarboe Engines in to look at those designs. They kind of critiqued them and told us what they liked and didn't like about it. We made changes, and now for each tool, we're making 3 tool holders to send to them, and then they're going to test them out, see how they work, and then I'm sure there will be a larger order in the future.
So the kids are not only getting to, work with an actual company making actual products, but they're involved in the process from beginning to end.
Yep.
Design,
Yep.
They get feedback, and I'm assuming they take it kind of well because.
Right, yeah. And honestly, Jarboe Engines there was not a whole lot of negative things that needed to be changed. They were honestly really impressed with all of our designs, and there was just a few minor tweaks to a few tool holders, and that was about it. But yeah, they from start to finish, the design, the figuring the cost, the emailing back and forth to the company, the logistics of it all. We have a job meeting every day. We have a whiteboard that we go over. There's a project manager who gives tasks to the other students to do what they're doing for the day. There's a communicator that reaches out to the companies in emails. There's a maintenance person because the printers do break down. So they got to figure out what's wrong with it and fix them. We have a marketing person that makes Facebook posts about what we're doing. And we also have a quality control person. So every time a part is printed, it goes into a bin that tells the quality person that it's ready to be inspected. Once it's inspected and it passes, it goes into the final bin, which tells everybody in the class that it's ready to be shipped out. So that's kind of our process of how we keep track of everything.
And is it juniors and seniors that are participating in this, or all high schoolers?
Currently, they're all seniors.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. I do have one junior that jumped in after Christmas, but they're all seniors currently, except for the one junior. But yeah, it's typically it's the EDD class, so it's kind of the fourth year of the pathway. So it's primarily seniors, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, so you're not like freaking out because next year I'm not going to have any, but like the juniors now are knowing that that's where they'll be next year.
Yeah, so the other engineering classes that they take kind of give them all the skills that they need to come into this to be able to take on the company and keep going. So
okay, so they build the background knowledge and get the skills with the machines that they need starting like in a freshman class, and they work their way up to being able to do this.
The main skills they're gaining in the other classes are the CAD skills. We don't do a lot of 3D printing in my other classes. We kind of touch on it a little bit, but it doesn't get real in depth. So like when they get into the EDD class for the business, the first 9 weeks really gets into the basics of how to use the 3D printers. And from there, it's a lot of, Googling, YouTube, and figuring it out on your own, or asking me also. But, I bounce around there's a lot of different questions with kids doing a bunch of different projects as well. So if I'm not available, then they kind of figure out for themselves.
All right, so one last question. If a student that you have wonders what EDD or CAD stands for, what would you tell them?
Well, if they asked what CAD stood for and it was their second and third year, they should know that by now. But CAD is computer-aided drafting or computer-aided design. EDD is engineering, design, and development. So basically where we're spending the whole year designing parts and creating those parts for clients.
Mr. Jarboe, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I can't wait to see what other kind of products your students are going to be able to come up with.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Commodore Cast. Stay connected, stay involved, and as always,
don't give up the ship!
We'll see you next time.
This is Abby Brockman, and I hope you did enjoy this episode of the Commodore Cast. I'd like to give a shout out to Kellen Quinn and my first period English class for their intro and outro, our technical consultants, Braylon Adams and Tyler Cleaving, and our music producer, Jax Underhill, with his use of Remix Live.